Check one.
Hey, can you hear me?
Hey, what's up? Hold on.
Thanks for doing this.
Oh, no problem, Nathan.
Sorry about the technical difficulties.
That's okay. That's the way Zoom works.
What are you doing these days? You told me you do a little commentary. When's Pavement going to get back playing again?
Basically, I work four jobs in horse racing.
Wow.
That don't, well, they kind of amount to about
And you have
35
a
to,
record company, right?
yeah, but it's very unsuccessful. It's kind of on hiatus. Um, I'll figure out what to do next with the record.
I was watching a Silver Juice performance, and he mentioned your record company during the show.
Yeah, broker's tip is what it's called. And essentially, we got killed by COVID because basically, it's just a little label that puts out. I got a guy in Wisconsin that makes records for cheap, so you can make like 500 7 inches for like with art and everything for like 1,400 bucks. And so there's a bunch of bands I really like that aren't on record labels, and I felt like they deserved a chance to have a record, which means a lot to a band, even if it's a 7 inch. And so I started the label, and the way most of those bands sell records is, from the stage after they played or from a little merch booth in their towns or, when they go on little tours. And then, so yeah, so basically none of those bands could. So I put out a bunch of records in 2017 and 2018, and most of them just are sitting in boxes. They have most of them. The bands have most of them. But yeah, I just work a bunch of little jobs in horse racing, trying to piece together, a way to pay the bills. And then I think, see Steven, he's touring with a hard quartet now, and he's pretty excited about that. And that's going to take up most of his time and energy for the next year and a half. Um, I expect Pavement maybe to do something like a one-off here and there, a few of those the next few years, and then I think the plan is to kind of get back together for the 40th anniversary of the start of the band. So probably like 2029 or 2030.
That's something I meant to say earlier when we were talking about Nirvana is growing up, I had no idea that Pavement was recording that Planted and Enchanted in 1990.
Yeah.
It comes out in 92. So
Yeah.
that always made sense to me. 92, right in the middle of the grunge era, right after
Hmm.
Nirvana, had, blown up. But
Hmm.
it turned out that they were way ahead of Nevermind because Nevermind hadn't come out. That whole
Yeah.
album is ahead of that. So
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
that really put it on another level to me.
We're
Like
not influenced by them.
what was happening? How did that happen?
We weren't influenced at all by them or grunge in general. We liked it. Um, but Steven basically, when he left college, he had a bunch of songs. That's my mother's phone. Um, he had a bunch of songs, and he went back home where his parents lived and stayed with them for a while, and he knew Scott from high school, and that's how Pavement started. But Steven like had a bunch of ideas, and yeah, it was all completely separate from anything else that was going on. Pavement's really never been a part of a scene. I mean, even when we were on Drag City, we're on Matador, of course, which we still are. We haven't we've always been kind of a law unto ourselves. We don't live in the same town, and we're not like a part. I mean, I think San Francisco, or Sacramento, like Northern California, kind of try to treat us like a local band. Um, and that's mainly because like Gary would have been based there, but basically we've been entirely seamless. And I think we've been a big part of the record labels that we were on, but that was kind of by default as opposed to design. And we've never really been particularly close with any of the bands on the labels. I
What
mean,
was
we're happy to play with them, but like, we're not really we just kind of operate in our own universe, which is pretty cool.
you know what kind of music Scott was driven by? What was he influenced by? Because I
And
know
he
he came
liked the
from like,
same kind of stuff. He might like a little more poppy stuff. Like he likes Brian Ferry, Roxy Music and stuff like that. He likes more less punky stuff, like less hardcore sounding stuff and more like independent power pop type stuff. But he loved REM, and he's the biggest Echo and the Bunnymen fan I've ever known. He
he
likes New
keeps
Order. He
New
likes
Order. Okay.
Yeah, he likes like really well crafted music. Um, and his band, he has his own band, or he lives in Australia now with his
Oh,
wife. Yeah, and he plays with some people, younger people that really know what they're doing. They
because I
kind of
read
care.
that he brought in the lo-fi type of background, that distortion heavy sound. Is that what he's
Mm,
responsible for bringing to the group?
I think it was probably him and Malcolmus. Yeah. I guess you'd have to ask them, really. I wouldn't even know.
Okay.
Hmm.
Now you live in Tennessee, I read now.
Yeah, I live in Paris.
You have a farm?
No.
I read you had a farm. No?
No, I
Okay.
rent a house from a buddy.
Okay.
Yeah, I rent a house from a buddy. It's actually an acre. Um, but yeah, it's just a house out in the woods. I'm trying to figure out where I'm gonna move next.
So you have four racing jobs.
Yeah, just little ones.
Wow.
Thoroughgraph, just little ones. Horse Racing Radio Network, Thoroughgraph. I work for this one trainer in England. Just write stuff for him. And then I work for Thoroughbred Daily News on the weekends.
Oh, what do
Just
you
to
do
get
for them?
just to pay like the health insurance bill and the
What do you do
because
for
I'm
TDN?
I'd write for Thoroughbred Daily News,
You write
yeah.
stories.
What's that?
You write stories?
No, mostly just race recaps.
Okay. I didn't know
Yeah,
that.
just on Saturday and Sunday. That's a
Okay.
new thing. I mean, it's just they pay you pennies, but it's kind of fun.
Yeah,
Pays for
I wrote a couple
groceries.
stories for them in the past.
Oh, cool. Yeah, they're nice people. Yeah, Thoroughbred Daily News. They're doing all right, I think. People
So
like
you
it.
used to be a chart caller.
Yeah, I think I might get back into that because you can now work for Equibase from remote locations for like a few tracks. So I talked to my manager, this woman named Treese, and she's really cool. And she said she'll try to find me a track next year. Um, and then Thorograph, they're just like that's just like I collect the field data for them that they turn into the whatever the products are that they sell. That's kind of easy and fun. I like that job.
And you were a jockey agent for Joe Johnson and Greta Kunstweiler, is that
Yeah,
right?
back in the day, many years ago, 20 some odd years
That's a
ago,
tough job, isn't
didn't like it.
it?
I wasn't good at it. You gotta be real dishonest and you know, um it's not a in, I mean I'm sure there are some nice people that do it, but um I'm too straightforward. I'm not a very good BS artist.
How many instruments do you play? So I've counted. You play on these albums with the Silver Jews and Pavement. You've played the synthesizers. You play
Hmm.
drums.
I
How did
don't
you get
really
into?
know how to play anything, to be honest. I
How
mean,
did you learn how to play the synthesizer? That's not easy.
same way you would just figure fiddling around till you found a noise that you liked. I mean, if you try something, then you might get it to work. That's all.
Now, when you're
Just like
when you're
drumming, I'm a pretty simple drummer, but um, you know, I've often thought that if you're playing with people who are good enough, then the best way to percuss or play drums is to not invade the magic.
I read that you can't play the kick drum. Is that?
Yeah, I can't play. I don't like it. I wouldn't want to play
I
it.
have the same exact problem.
Yeah, I
And
like
I've tried.
drumming with my arms. I like to drum with my arms.
I wanted to play the drums forever when I was a kid, and then in high school I tried to play it, and I didn't realize you had to pick this thing, this pedal. It was so annoying to me. I couldn't figure it out.
I can't do it. No, I can't coordinate. It's like some people can drum on a kit and sing at the same time. Some people can drum on a kit and not sing at the same time. Some people can't drum on a kit. I can only play the two drums, and then I kind of screw on a bunch of little other things to hit. I think I can drum pretty well with my arms and hands.
You have a favorite
Um,
drummer?
yeah, I would say Ray Washam from Scratch Acid, um, and I mean Brett Walford. Um, um, hold on a sec. Okay, sorry about that. Brett Walford from Slint. Um, yeah, a lot. There's a lot of drummers I loved. I love Mac from Jesus Lizard. Shelley's amazing. Shelley's an amazing drummer, Steve
Yeah.
Shelley. I mean, that guy's a real drummer. I mean, that guy, like, he's been drumming. He's so into it.
Yeah.
He's so good at it. I mean, that's the best drummer you've ever talked to, I bet.
Well, yeah, for sure. But I
Yeah.
saw last time I saw them was in Brooklyn not too long. They broke up after,
Oh.
and they played the whole Daydream Nation album from start to finish.
Oh, that would have been amazing. I saw
When you
that tour.
Okay,
I saw that tour in North Carolina and in Charlottesville. We drove down, even though they were playing Charlottesville where we lived, the next night we went down to, I'm pretty sure it was Raleigh. It was a funny little bar. Um, but yeah, no, it was cool. It was pretty
so
cool.
what else do you play when you're on stage? Is it the tambourines? Is it the
Tambourines,
maracas?
maracas, bells. Um, I play a triangle on hex. Um, really just things that make it look like I'm doing something.
You know,
It's interesting that sound man, or we have two sound men. We have one, our main guy, who's been with us since the early 90s. And we have this other guy, named Aaron Mullen from Portland. And he does this a lot when we're just doing short things in the States. And they use I mean, I always tell them, I said, I don't really care what you use, how loud you want to mix me or anything like that. I'm just going to do my thing. And if you want to use it, you use it. And it always surprises me to hear myself in the mix as much as I do. So, I mean, it's up to them. They know Pavement. If they want to use it, they use it because none of it is important to the records. And a lot of people, it pisses them off. They think that I do too much.
no, I think it's incredible because when I'm
Hmm.
not an expert on. I don't claim to be an expert on music, but a lot of what you do, sometimes I had thought that when albums are recorded, songs are recorded, that the what you're doing there with the tambourines and the maracas, I don't know if it's the Latin shaker or what it is, but
Yeah, all that kind of stuff. The big bat flute, so I can play flute too.
I would have thought that that's like on the drum kit for some reason, because some of what that weighs, some of what those sounds are played.
Yeah,
But
some of them are, and some of them are by hand. Yeah.
that's what I always wondered.
Yeah, some of them are. I've got on the drums, I've got a tambourine, um, on I forget what they're called, those hook things. I've got a tambourine that stands up there and I hit that a lot. Then I've got three different sizes of those plastic cowbell type things. And I play those on a bunch of songs like Type Slowly and um, Starlings. I play those on a bunch of songs. Steve West's a great drummer too. He's a real
Yeah,
solid rock and roll drummer. And we just have the double drums on songs where we think it'll enhance the song.
yeah.
But yeah, I think that basically my job in the band really is more than anything else is to entertain the audience.
And I've seen early Pavement videos. You were playing pretty early on at those concerts, right? From
From
early,
the start,
from the
yeah.
very beginning.
From the very well, our first live show was in New Brunswick, New Jersey in 1990, and I've played every single one except for one in Venlo, Holland. I missed a flight, and so I missed that. That was like in front of 200 people in Holland, and then in this on this the last few years, I fell off the stage in Melbourne, and I was in the
Oh, geez.
hospital. I missed one show because of
You
that.
okay?
Yeah, I mean, I have a scar. Yeah, I
That
got
was
lucky. I could have broken my neck. I couldn't
that's
see the end of the stage. It was really dark.
that's quite
Yeah.
a dynamic in those early days, you and Gary.
Yeah, I didn't do much. If Gary was on, I didn't have to do anything. And when Gary left the band, I figured like that, I mean, I was simply put, I didn't know what the hell I was going to do. So, because Steve West, the main reason I was in the band was to make sure that time was being kept.
That's what I read.
Yeah, then that's the only reason I was supposed to just be the roadie. And about 3 days before we went on tour, because I had a good tour vehicle, and I was just supposed to be the roadie. And I was pretty excited about that. And about tour, we practiced for a few hours, and Steven said, "You better get a couple of drums because if Gary is too messed up to drum, we need somebody to keep time." And I'd never drummed at all. I mean, I drummed in elementary school marching band. I drummed less than you. You know what I mean? I didn't know I knew how to do this. That's it.
He was a pretty good drummer, even though he seemed
He's
like he was a
brilliant.
little wild.
He was like Keith Moon, really. He was like Keith Moon. He was like as close as like 90s music ever got to Keith Moon. And like they all loved him. Like, Shelley, if you asked Shelley about him, he'd tell you Gary was great.
I had a
Yeah.
bunch of questions for you, which I don't think we're going to be able to get to them all because I know you got to go soon.
You
But
can write them, but you can email them and I'll answer them, or we can do another session next week or something. I'll be
how
home
much time?
next week.
How much time do you have? I might throw a couple at you
I've
if
got
you're
about
good.
5 minutes right now.
All right.
12:40, I've got to go.
I might throw some random questions at you. Is that all
Yeah,
right?
go for
Okay.
it.
All right. One of my favorite songs is the Silver Juice song on the American Water album, "Send in the Clouds."
Uh,
I don't think you played on that album.
I
I'm
did
not sure.
not.
Okay, but do you
It's
know the
funny though
song?
because this guy from Cincinnati who has a water, he makes water, like sells cans of water, and his he loves silver juice. So his, I mean, and once you get to the point where your product's being canned, you've done pretty well, right? Well, his product's called American Water, and he came up to me and he said, I want you to have an American Water T-shirt." And he said, "Thanks so much for playing drums on American Water. You did such a great job. It's my favorite album of all time." And I thought, I mean, I thought, should I tell this guy? And I did. I said, I love it too. I said, it's my favorite Silver Juice record, but I hadn't been in the band for years. I said, I didn't band a drum on American Water. Um, I, I can't even, oh, Tim Barnes did. Tim Barnes drummed on it. And he said, really? And he said, And I said, yeah, no, I hadn't been in the band in a few years when they made American Water. And he said, well, here's a t-shirt anyway.
Well, there's a line in there where they say "Soy de Sancho," and
Yes.
I think it's Steve singing that part.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, I think they both sing it.
they both sing it at some point.
Yeah. Soy de Centre, yeah, SOI
You know what that means? Is it a random
means
word?
nothing.
Okay.
It's just they thought um it's just like la la la
Yeah.
or sha la la or anything like that. It's just that it sounded cool. They made up words. They're made up words.
One of the other famous Silver Juice lines is when he talks about, "Do you know why the roads are painted black?" And he says,
Yes.
"Stephen, because when people leave, they don't come back." So
Yes.
did Stephen write that line?
No, David wrote it.
But
Uh,
he's saying it, the guy speaking to Stephen.
yes. Yeah. Yeah. That's exactly right. And Steven does the same thing on Fight This Generation.
Oh, okay.
He's he says Sweet Yardley.
Okay.
And Yardley's a girl that we went to college with, and
Oh.
who he barely even knew, but she was unusually pretty girl. And she went out with one of our friends, and and then he changes it all the time. Like he'll change it to, I think live he usually says Westy. He usually says Sweet Westy. Because Steve is sweet. Steve West is awful sweet.
I also read that none of the Silver Jews members besides Dave were actually Jewish. Is that right?
But none of the Silver Juice members were what?
Were actually Jewish besides David?
Only David, yes.
Only David. Interesting.
Yes. I don't know about it. Well, I mean, at this point, Silver Juice had about 20 members.
Right. So it's
And
possible.
I think none of them are Jewish.
It's
I think
amazing.
I know all of them. Yeah, I think none of them are Jewish. We just are, when we play in Silver Jews, we're temporarily Jewish.
Yeah, I read he had different ideas about the name, and sometimes he wondered if maybe should have had a different name, or was it just a fun thing for him that he thought, or was he serious about liking the name?
I think he just thought it fit the project. I think it's interesting that, at least in indie rock, there weren't that many bands that would refer to a religion very often in their band name. And he's Jewish, and in certain ways, he really tried to embrace his faith, and at various times in his life, I think being a devout Jew was a great benefit to him.
Yeah, I read
So
that after his episode, he really embraced it and came back to the religion and really
yes,
studied it. And
yes,
he talks about it in some of these interviews.
tirelessly
And I read
he
that
used
when
to
he
speak
went to
about it.
Israel, it was actually he said one of his best experiences.
Yeah, I think it was something that uh I mean, obviously he didn't wasn't a simpleton in terms of having a bucket list, but I think that the fact that he had that amazing experience in Israel, which sort of like defined the last quarter of his life, um, his instead of resisting his faith, embracing his faith when he needed it, and then the crowning glory of that whole achievement in his life was then visiting Israel. So that sort of made him probably more able to rest in peace.
And you guys performed there too, Pavement.
No, we didn't. We
Huh?
never played in
I thought you
Israel.
did. No. Okay.
I've
I'm
never
wrong.
been. Maybe the chicks have been.
Okay.
I have personally have never been.
Okay.
My sister has. My sister has, and her family, they've been to Israel, but I've never been to Israel. I would go. I mean, not maybe not now. Probably be unwise now.
Now, let me ask you one more question before you let you go.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, you guys came back and you had like week-long sets in New York when you came back and you reunited. And
Mm.
do you,
Too many. Too many.
what do you think about the way you've been celebrated since you've reunited? You're bigger than ever, it was safe to say.
Yes. Yeah, well, we're better than ever because we added Rebecca and she's really good. And that allows us to feel more confident that there's another really um, good musician and good person in the band. So we're able to play more songs, we're able to play better. And then the fans, we've retained many of the people that liked the band the first time around in the 90s. And then I guess the band has been passed on by a lot of people who liked us who are now in their 40s, 50s, and 60s to kids and nieces and nephews and their friends and stuff. And I guess the most significant thing is what's really revitalized the band is the pure luck associated with the enormous enjoyment and discovery of Harness Your Hopes on
Which was never even
most.
on the album, right? It's never
It's
on
on
the
a
album.
B side, I think. Yeah, it's on a B side. Some Pavement fan who listened to a lot of the Pavement songs started using that on social media or a bunch of fans, and it really caught fire. And so yeah, I mean that's just one of those things that is a minor miracle.
Yeah. Well, it's great talking to you. I know
Yeah,
you got
my
to
pleasure,
go.
Nathan.
Have a
Yeah.
happy Thanksgiving.
Yeah, happy Thanksgiving to you. You guys have a wonderful time, and sorry you've had to deal with so much horrible weather down there.
That's okay.
Hopefully you'll get a break for a few
All
weeks. Great to talk to you, man. Anytime.
right. Thank you very much.
Yeah, have a great one, Nathan.
All right, you too.
Enjoy yourselves.
You too. Have a happy and
Later,
healthy.
mate. Later, mate.
Okay.